And now, on a different note, this week marks 1 year since the attacks on the Charlie Hebdo offices in Paris, which commemorations taking place in the French capital. To mark the anniversary, the satirical weekly will release an edition featuring an armed and bearded man representing God, accompanied by the text, "1 year on, the assassin is still out there." The attack was followed days later by the killing of 4 people at a kosher supermarket. I-24 News Paris correspondents Olivier Lerner and Elodie Toto have the story.
A somber mood in Paris, where the names of the victims of last January's jihadist attack on Charlie Hebdo are read out in front of the French satirical's headquarters. As if winking one last time from the grave, Wolinski's name has been misspelled. There are no big speeches, just a few words from those who survived, directed at the families of the victims.
To me, this monument is something done by the political leaders to say, we will not forget. It forces us. It forces us to act more, and I think that's what it symbolizes.
We realize that it's important to remember the names of the victims in everyday life, not to remember exclusively the names of the murderers.
Journalists massacred, police officers executed, Jews held hostage and then murdered in Paris, in the 11th arrondissement and in Porte de Vincennes. One of the managers of the kosher supermarket still has a hard time accepting what happened.
Indeed, it happened to us, but at the same time, it is a collective tragedy. That's our message. We need to move on and not to give up. We need to show that they didn't crush us.
I live right here, upstairs, and I can't go back. I'm too scared.
Paradoxically, the most optimistic person attending the ceremony is one of the heroes of the supermarket attack.
I'm smiling because, yes, it was a dramatic event, but after that, you have to go back to your normal life. It's not like we are going to forget what happened here, but we are going to try to move on.
As soon as the commemoration has ended, and as if to show that life goes on, the kosher store reopens its doors.
And joining us right now on the phone is Christian Malard, I-24 News International analyst. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining me.
Lucy.
Christian, 1 year after, what is the feeling? Just, let's say, 1 month, 2 months after the Paris terror attacks on the streets of Paris, that the perpetrator of this specific event wasn't caught yet?
I would say, Lucy, that definitely the trauma is still there after what happened a year ago, and moreover, since, as you alluded to, last November the 13th terrorist attacks. In all their respective speeches, François Hollande and Prime Minister Valls keep reminding French people, French population, we are at war with the Islamic State and some other Islamist movements, and it will last long. Everybody knows. But the question is, do we have the real means to respond to this new kind of war, this new kind of terrorism? This morning, the widow of one of the policemen who was shot by the terrorist, Mrs. Ingrid Brassolero, said today and that her husband has been the victim of the terrorist at Charlie Hebdo because there was an obvious lack of security to protect the weekly newspaper. She definitely put the finger on the key question. Haven't we underestimated in France the terrorist threat? Definitely.
Yes, Christian Malard, thank you very much for this. I want to finish with the last point that Christian Malard just said, and it's underestimating what happened a year ago and maybe forgetting too quickly. Maybe it was one of the reasons that everything happened, what happened in the last terror attacks.
Right, so don't forget that the year 2015 started with terrorist attacks in Paris and also ended with horrific terrorist attacks in Paris. And I think that only now is the French government really taking measures to face that threat. I mean, they're talking about, resealing the borders, about, repealing citizenship to convicted terrorists with double citizenship. I mean, taking all these very tough measures, which they didn't take before. I think they realized that the terrorist threat is real after those tragedies that opened and ended the year 2015. And France is never going to be the same France.
Emmanuel Navon, thank you very much. I wish I had more time with you. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
this.